It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Thursday, and I swear I can see the long weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation for when it hits the fan.
Actually, today's a Friday, even though it's a Thursday. I'll explain.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
See, I told Miss Mary yesterday that today is going to be Friday. You're keeping up with me on this so far? I know it's Thursday, but we're going to treat it like it's a Friday. And the reason why is we know that it's a long weekend, 3-day weekend, and people will show up for work tomorrow, but not a whole lot's going to get done because here comes a long weekend. In fact, many people have already taken the day off tomorrow, some even today here at where I'm working. So today is a Friday, even though it's a Thursday, and then Friday is going to be, well, I think we have 2 Saturdays and then 2 Sundays. That's how the weekend's going to be. 2 Saturdays, so Friday is Saturday, and then Saturday is Saturday, and then Sunday is Sunday, and Monday is Sunday. See what I'm saying? So that's how we're going to play this whole weekend. Anybody confused? Okay, just let me know. I don't want to hit you with too much when you're just getting up and haven't had your coffee yet. All right, one of the first things I want to do this morning, and I'm going to play this several times this morning and then put it in the files to play it from time to time. You know I like to write bits for the show and create characters and do different voices. A while back, I pitched you guys an idea. And as usual, you sent me all sorts of great material to put into it. The idea is, why don't we open up a restaurant at the bottom of wind turbines? Just take a wind farm and open up a restaurant there. I mean, think about, first off, it's free power, right? And because it's supposed to be green, sustainable energy, which it's not, but okay, that means there's no way we can go wrong here with this because this is where we're getting our energy from. And to save costs on food, we're going to serve birds, especially rare birds, because the wind turbines kill birds. And that's what we're going to serve. Now, some people, and it's going to be a subsidized business, too. Well, I'll explain why in just a minute. But some people shot me ideas like, what about when the wind doesn't blow? You're not getting bird kill, and you're not getting any power to run the grill or the electricity. And then somebody else chimed in and said, well, that's okay. We'll just run it with diesel generators when the wind's not blowing. See? And if the thing is still losing money, that's okay because it's wind power. So we have government subsidies. Everything is, air quotes here, sustainable. So how do I write this up as a bit? I haven't done a Jenkins and a Boss in quite a while. Now, Jenkins and a Boss is... The boss is a old guy, sort of short, pot-bellied, going bald, been around for a long time, very successful businessman, does not understand today's world. The whole woke culture thing, he doesn't get it. That's the boss, and he's trying to survive in today's world. Jenkins is a younger man who works for him and is sort of like almost like a secretary guy. The boss took him under his wing. Probably because, Jenkins is willing to do anything and say anything, but all right. So Jenkins is constantly trying to save the boss because the boss doesn't understand today's society. But Jenkins at least understands what's going on. So constantly trying to rescue him. So I thought, okay, it's been a while since I've written a Jenkins and the Boss interview. So I took the idea that we had with all of your great suggestions. And I sent the script to John, who's up in Gillette, Wyoming, who literally recorded this in his closet. The reason for that is good sound quality in a closet full of clothes. So he went in there and recorded this thing. And this morning, I put my part together. He sent me his audio. I put my part together with some music and sound effects. And here we go.
Jenkins! Yes, sir? Yes, sir?
Jenkins, I have an idea.
I'm afraid already, sir.
I want to open up a restaurant chain with the lowest cost overhead ever.
Oh, sir, that's nearly impossible in today's economy, and most new restaurants fail. You know that.
Locate each restaurant chain in the middle of wind farms. Then we serve fresh bird kill.
Wow. That really does cut costs. But won't PETA try to shut us down?
Oh, they can't object, because all the food is provided by green and sustainable energy.
And since a lot of endangered birds are killed by wind turbines, you can say your menu is full of rare delicacies.
I see no downside to this.
Except that you can only be open when the wind is blowing, or you won't have fresh kill or power to cook
We
it.
can always have diesel backup generators to turn the turbines when the wind isn't blowing.
Sir, I really think this idea will finally lead this company into
Oh,
bankruptcy.
no. You see, since we're running on wind power and serving endangered species, we can apply for unlimited grants and subsidies. Who cares if we have any customers at all?
And I bet you're planning to staff the place with illegal immigrants.
Yes, and recent college graduates who can find a job to fit their degrees. Now, how much do you think we'll get from the feds?
Sir, we're going to be rich.
What do you mean, we?
So there. It took a while to get it all together here, but mostly because everybody's busy, including me. But I'll play that several more times this morning to get out the latest Jenkins and the Boss. There was a time when I was doing this show, and this is before things on the internet got really, really busy. We had internet, but it wasn't as busy. That I spent, after I prepped for the show, I spent most of my time creating stuff like that. And I still do, but at a much slower pace now because of other things that I have to do, which I just hate.
Hi, I'm Robert Lee. I own Coleman Liquidation. I sell mobile homes. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to tell it just like it is. These are mobile homes, not mansions. They come in two pieces. If that's what you're looking for, that's what I got. They're used. Some of them have stains. We cover that up. She decorates them. She sells them. These guys help me move. Bouncer in Birmingham hit me in the face with a crescent wrench 5 times. And my wife's boyfriend broke my jaw with a fence post. So if you don't buy a trailer from me, it ain't going to hurt my feelings. So come on down to Coleman Liquidation and get yourself a home. Or don't. I don't care.
Well, that's an interesting point, John, and the answer is no, but I see where you got the idea. I.D. John and Granny Candy said, Morning, Glenn. I always thought Jenkins and the Boss was based on Mr. Burns and Smithers from The Simpsons. No, actually. I didn't even think about them when I created the characters. But I understand absolutely where you get them from. But, yeah, I like the idea of the old boss who just cannot understand today's woke society, but he's trying to survive in it as best he can. And Jenkins is doing all he can to try to help him. Now, if you don't mind, since you mentioned that, I'm going to play one more. Let's see, there's so many good. There's Obamacare, paying taxes, self-identification, the toilet paper app. Oh, that's really good here. I'm thinking about one with today's woke generation. There's gender-neutral bathrooms, minimum wage, paying taxes, privileges showing, regulations. Oh, God, this is, we've done, John, you and I have done so many of these over the years. It's difficult to find exactly the one that I'm looking for. There's one in here. Oh, here we go. The millennial meeting. This is the boss just trying to have a regular business meeting.
Jenkins!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jenkins, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at here in our conference room. What did you fill all of these bowls with? Where are the snacks?
Well, sir, this meeting is with our millennial interns, right?
Well, yes.
Snacking on coffee and donuts is so old school, sir.
Oh, right. I remember when we switched to lattes and organic tofu.
Sir, that is so last week. This is the new generation. New trends. Gotta keep up with the times.
Well, I guess those look tasty. Let's see what these kids are into these days. Oh.
Well, sir, what do you think?
Tastes like laundry soap.
Exactly.
What's in that bowl? Are those what I think they are?
Yes, sir.
Surely we're not letting them have sex during the meeting.
Oh, no, sir. That would be silly. No, sir. You take the condom and you snort it up your nose and then pull it out through
Stop! I don't want to know the rest of this.
It's the latest trend, sir.
Fine. Just get them in here so I can talk to them.
That's changed too, sir. They will all sit in their seats looking at their phones while you Snapchat with them. Whatever you do, don't talk to them directly. And, sir?
Yes?
No eye contact.
How will they know I'm their boss?
Sir, we can't let them know that their boss is an old, rich, white guy. That would trigger them.
Fine. Call them in. Let's get this meeting started.
Very good, sir. I'll just go and coax them out of our company safe space.
See, all of this based on actual events. Yeah, I need to write more of those.
Yesterday, scientists in the United States revealed that beer contains small traces of female hormones. To prove their theory, they fed 100 men 12 pints of beer and observed that 100% of them started talking nonsense and couldn't drive.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:24 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, so the annoying news of this morning from WildFile. Upset customers already frustrated by electric rate hikes. This is a meeting that I told you folks were going to have. Remember, Rocky Mountain Power, and we knew this was coming, was going to ask for yet another rate hike for a list of reasons. And for those who are saying because they need to install more wind and solar power, part of it, not the whole thing. But all right. Story says dozens of Rocky Mountain Power customers filed into or filled a ballroom at the Ramcota Hotel Tuesday afternoon with questions about why their electric bills have increased and why the monopoly utility is asking for yet another rate hike. But what they found was an open house style where the company officials, various experts, stood with customers in clusters attempting to explain. So in other words, nobody stood up to an audience and gave speeches and then took questions. Just go in and talk to the people of Rocky Mountain Power, and they'll stand there and explain what's going on. So the story says Brenda Johnson and her friend tried approaching the company officials but couldn't gain a one-on-one audience. Quote, we couldn't talk to anybody because they were all busy. But at least I got a cookie, she said. Great. Johnson and Rocky Mountain Power's 144,000 Wyoming customers saw their monthly electric bills jump by 5.5% in January and another 9.3% in July. In August, the company filed another rate increase, this time asking for 14.7%. And remember how this always works. They're going to ask for a lot more than they really need, because they know they're going to get haggled and pushed down. It happens every time. So they ask for way more. They don't need 14.7%. They'll ask for it because they know they're going to get beaten down. State regulatory officials, the story says, confirmed the scale of the increase is historic, while customers say it feels like they're being gouged for essential services that customers have little control over. So, quote, we're on fixed income, said one 79-year-old Casper resident, adding with the power bills and everything else skyrocketing, can't afford this. And I look at it as not just individual residents. Pick any business. Because for a business, many businesses have to keep their power running all the time. Depends on what you're doing. And that can really run rates up. So some said it doesn't make sense in a state that exports a vast majority of electricity that's generated within its borders, and where residents and residential power consumption pales in comparison to industrial demand. Many others suspected that the Rocky Mountain Power raising costs might be legitimate. Soaring operational costs, for example, is what they say. Quote, we don't have these huge rate increases. We used to look at 1.5% when we got a rate increase, which at those times I really didn't mind. If they were saying we need to raise your rates and it was like 0.5%, like, well, you got to have a cost of living adjustment, from time to time. Rocky Mountain Power's latest electricity utility is part of billionaire Warren Buffett's Pacific Corp, which operates in 16 states, the story says. In addition to Wyoming companies, they're also asking for significant rate increases in Oregon, Utah, and Idaho. See, now, I'm going to hang on to the story. We'll get back to it at the end of this news and information break. But I keep going back to we were told we get wind and solar and, your electricity rates are going to go down. You're going to have available energy at such a cheap rate, and that's not what's happening, and it never does. Rates keep going up. Not just because of wind and solar itself, but because the war on energy, coal, gas, and oil, keeps raising the rates. Coming up on 6:30, local news, coming your way after a local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So I'm talking about the latest from Rocky Mountain Power in Wyoming. They have to have, in order to ask for a rate increase, which is over 14%, they have to have public meetings. That's part of the deal. And the first one was held in Casper at the Ramcota yesterday. Style of meeting was a little bit different. Rather than having some speakers at a table and then people can sit in chairs and listen and ask questions, it was you just walk in, you get some snacks, and there's different people from Rocky Mountain Power standing around. Just go over and join the group and try to get in on the discussion, and that's what they did. Not a huge number of people showed up. There should have been more, but okay. Now, as for all the reasons why they want to raise electricity rates, Rocky Mountain Power has its reasons, including fuel cost adjustments as well. But I'll get into what I think about the reasons. Jim's making some good points. Jim's in Casper. He says, Rocky Mountain Power increased, unfortunately, to cover exploding costs of doing business. My operational costs have increased by more than 43% in 3 years. In 2 years, liability insurance up 45%, health insurance 64%, fuel up 150%, maintenance on vehicles up 53%, interest rates on lines of credit and vehicle loans up 50%. I've had to raise my rates to cover this, and I can't imagine their expenses are any less. This is a direct result of liberal economic destructions. Fact, he said. Well, and he's not wrong about, and I hate to say this. I really hate to say this out loud. Jim is right. No, it's not good to say that out loud around Jim, that he's right about something. I try to avoid it at all costs, but he's right about that. And there's other costs that Rocky Mountain Power has thrown in there, such as the cost of fuel. But then also they are trying to get involved with wind and solar, even though there's a lot of government subsidies for that. That helps raise the rates as well. In other words, thank you, Bidenomics, for all of this. Now, and those rates don't have to go up. There's a lot we can do to lower the rates, and part of that would be let the free market reign and get the government out of this. To me, it's much like, you've heard me go on a lot over the past few years about the cost of college. The more government got involved in college in order to make college more affordable, the higher the cost of college went. And pick anything else that you want to pick, the more government gets involved. Hospitals, trying to seek medical care, insurance, and things like that. Well, the more that government gets involved in your health care to make it more affordable and accessible, the less accessible it is, the less affordable it is. It's anything. And right now, government has its hands in every little thing. This is why I keep going back and saying these politicians and bureaucrats, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. So the more they try to get in and fix things, the worse it gets. That's why I'm more of your free market guy. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. The world will never be perfect. We're never going to find a perfect solution. However, if you would like to improve the situation greatly, a good thing to do is just back off on government regulations and let the free market reign, especially since we're talking energy. Let's just take a look at the cost of production of energy and the less government involvement, as Jim points out, in all sorts of things, not just production itself, in running the energy company, but in also finding fuel and using that fuel to make energy. The less government involvement there is, the more affordable it is to make energy. In fact, electricity was a lot more affordable before government tried to make it what they saw as clean and green and sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. And now they're trying to save the planet on top of that, and all they've done is explode the costs. So, yes, it is a whole host of things. It's not just one thing that makes them want to raise their electricity costs like this. In which case, I would say, remember this going into this next election. Who is it, not just on the national level, but more on the local level, could you vote for that would actually lower costs? Every candidate is out there saying, I will lower inflation. But most of them have more government programs and expenses that would raise inflation and devalue the dollar at the same time. Who is it, not just on the national level, but on the local level, actually has some ideas to lower the costs of everything across the board, including your power? That's, I think, one of the biggest decisions, because Americans vote with their wallet more than anything else. I think that's one of the biggest things we have to address in this election is who's actually going to increase costs and who's going to lower it. Give you a clue on that. Anyone who wants to invoke price controls, government price controls, will cause another massive surge in inflation. That should tell you a lot about who to vote for.
Okay, I'm usually not one to brag about expensive trips that I take, but I just got back from the grocery store.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Icebox Frank Gambino is waiting by. In case we got a holiday weekend coming up, right, Frank?
Yeah, so Monday is Labor Day.
Yeah, okay, so here's how I figure this out. Now, we all know that tomorrow most people are not showing up for work, especially here. And anyone who does show up is not going to get a whole lot done. So I'm calling today. Well, I know you are doing the same thing, but most people are just not.
I'm working all day.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's you, Frank.
It's Friday.
Yeah, nobody else is. So here's how I've worked this out. Today is Friday, tomorrow is Saturday, and Saturday is Saturday. Sunday is Sunday, and Monday is Sunday. So we got 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still working them all.
I know you do.
I really don't, this holiday weekend is nothing.
Uh-huh.
No,
not to Frank. No.
It's Friday is Friday, yes. Saturday is Saturday, Sunday is Sunday, and Monday is Monday.
Yes, because Frank, I have come in on a Sunday, and Frank is sitting here writing up, whatever happened in sports. But now, having said that, Frank, let's come right out and admit what you really do most of the time. You leave here in the company car, and you drive across Wyoming, which is nice. You get to the event where a lot of times for the press will lay out snacks.
Sometimes.
And then you get to lay back and watch a game.
No, I take pictures and videos, so I'm actually paying attention.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, not sitting in the stands drinking.
But you're watching sports and getting paid
Somebody
for it.
has to, yes.
Okay. So after spending the whole week going to one sporting event after the next, which Frank calls that work, he then comes in on the weekend and finally gets some work done because he's got to write all that up.
Right. So that's my life. It's been my life for 39 years.
Any complaints?
the schedule is bad.
Yeah, okay. Now, to show you that it's not work, Frank, when you do have time off, what do you do?
Golf, sleep.
Yes. Uh-huh. And go to a lot of the same games. You just don't take pictures.
Sometimes no. Believe it or not, I should attack my laundry one of these days.
One of these days? Yeah. Oh my God, are you wearing old smelly clothes right now?
No, they're clean. It's just that the pile over there is.
It's all right.
Well,
yeah.
It just kind of. It's like Mount Everest.
Yeah, okay. Nobody wanted to picture you sitting in the studio, which I would be. I'm glad you're in another studio if you smell like old laundry.
No.
You're fine.
No.
Okay.
And even if you did, just throw that Febreze on there, you're good to go. All right, in junior college soccer, the Casper College women are 1-0-2 after a 1-1 tie with Cochise College back on Monday. The T-Birds were the preseason number 16 team in the country. Casper College men's soccer team, they were rated 10th in the nation to start the year, and the Birds are 3-0 after a 3-1 win over Gillette College back on Tuesday. The LCCC women's soccer team 1-2 on the year. They beat Cochise their last time out 5-3, and the LCCC men 1-1, and they split their games in the Garden City, Kansas tournament and beat Seward, Kansas 1-0. In junior college volleyball, the Casper College team and the LCCC volleyball team, they were both in the McCook tournament over the weekend. Casper College split their matches. They beat Otero and North Platte and lost to Seward, Kansas and McCook, Nebraska. Same thing for LCCC, so they're both 2-2 on the year. Wyoming Cowgirl volleyball team will be in the Omaha tournament, and they'll play a couple of good teams in this tournament. Washington State tomorrow, and Washington State made the NCAA tournament a year ago. And then on Saturday they'll play Omaha, and they made it to the NCAA tournament. Cowgirls won 22-10 a year ago and played in the National Invitational Volleyball Classic. In high school golf, the Gillette tournament will be today and tomorrow. All three Cheyenne schools will be there, and the two Casper schools. And in girls swimming, the Gillette relays will be tomorrow in Gillette, while all three of the Cheyenne schools and the two Casper schools will be there. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be at Arizona State on Saturday night at 8:30 in Tempe. Just to know that the high temperature in Tempe on Saturday will be 106. And by the time the game starts, the temperature will be 97. So it's a little bit cooler. The Cowboys are 7-point underdogs in that game. That's an 8:30 kickoff from Tempe. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. That's in sports.
But it's a dry heat. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's a dry heat.
And those guys have to wear all of that stuff.
Yes, they do.
Here's what the Cowboys should do is turn to them and say, hey, guys, it's a lot cooler here in Wyoming. Would you like to hold the game here?
Oh, the last time, the one time the University of Texas played here in Laramie, all the Texas fans, they loved it because they have gone through like 45 or 50 straight days in Austin when it was 90 or above with the humidity. They came out to Laramie and people had jackets on. They go,
oh my God,
we love it here.
Why don't we live here?
It's like air conditioning for free.
It's outdoor air. That's why all of these tech companies want to locate here, because they don't have to run so much air conditioning to keep the computers cold. Just open up the doors and windows.
That makes
works out a whole lot better.
Now, and you'll see these teams will have huge, gigantic fans on the bench.
Oh yeah.
Now the fans in the stands, you're on your own.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's why
you're like, I'm melting.
You buy yourself one of those bottles that spray the cold water into your face with the fan. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast, and then you and I get back into California passed yet another bill that you're not going to believe. This is worse than giving free home loans to illegal immigrants. And if you're thinking, how could that possibly? It's possible. They can do it in California. They're California, after all. Let's wake up Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Thursday, and I swear I can see the long weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation. For when that hits the fan.
Real quick update on the fires out there, and God bless all the firefighters. I have some information for those people who are looking to help, whether you're a rancher farmer or just someone who wants to help out. It's on the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning, if you have the Wake Up Wyoming app. But also I'll talk about it a little bit later on. You can just go to the Wake Up Wyoming website at wakeupwyoming.com if that's the way you do it. And you'll see a story that shows where people are going to offer any kind of help up that they can. And in some cases, it's physically, people are going to be there with the necessary supplies. Other times, people don't have a chance to do that or the ability to do that, so they just send money. So all of that's on the Wake Up Wyoming website this morning. The fires, quite a few of them, especially the big ones, they're almost contained, real close. This weekend is going to be cooler today, but a little bit warmer, not hot, and not much for wind, but really dry, incredibly dry air. That dry air is not going to help. It would have been nice if things were moist out there, but not. We're not going to get much in the way of thunderstorms or anything like that, so this is going to be a difficult, long weekend to go through. But, again, the firefighters out there and other people who are helping them out are getting this pretty much contained right now. So keep an eye on that throughout your weekend. Just monitor the Wake Up Wyoming website, even though it is a long weekend. If we have something, we'll put it out there for you. All right, so real quick, the latest idiocy from California.
Come and listen to my story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. Then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground came a bubbling crude. Now he's a rich white guy living in Beverly Hills. Liberals, Botox, hypocrites, gun control. Well, the first thing you know, they tax his underwear. Ken folks said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you need to leave. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Tennessee. Low taxes, coal mines, and diesel trucks.
So let's take a look at what the latest is. You heard, of course, illegal immigrants are going to be, if the governor signs it, going to be eligible for home loans. And they try to make the excuse on the Democrat side that, well, these illegal immigrants had to be here for so long. They have jobs and Social Security numbers and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, but they're here illegally. So they shouldn't have all of that. They need to be here in the country legally, then go right ahead. But that same home loan idea is not being offered to regular citizens or veterans for that matter. Okay, so let's go to the latest. California legislators have passed a bill banning voter ID laws. Well, I've got to send this to our Secretary of State here in Wyoming, Chuck Gray. He's going to love that one. Or his head's going to explode, one or the other, but okay. California legislator passed a bill banning local governments from adopting voter identification laws for local elections. California does not require identification to vote at all. Earlier this year, the city of Huntington Beach approved voter ID requirements for municipal elections starting in 2026. So the bill would override even that policy. This is where I have to go back to why would you not want one person, one vote? They're trying to open the door for cheating. Now, their excuse will be, well, it's racist to ask for ID. And we've been through that before, and obviously, no, it's not. But reading on. Here's a quote. An overwhelming body of evidence proves that voter ID laws only subvert voter turnout, which it doesn't, and create barriers to law-abiding voters, which it doesn't. That, according to the author, he's a Democrat for Irvine, California. To register to vote in California, voters are already required to provide their driver's license number, California identification number, or at least 4 digits of the Social Security number. So that has nothing to do with when they show up to vote, though. They can just walk in and vote. Anybody can, including people who are here illegally. State Assembly member, a Republican, and there are a few in California, introduced a failed amendment to the bill that would have explicitly banned undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, from voting. That part gets shot down, of course, because you can see what they want to do, obviously, is have more Democrat voters. Let a bunch of people in the country illegally, give them a whole bunch of free stuff, and then, hey, vote for me. Which is why I've said, look, if people who are coming into this country illegally were mostly voting Republican, the Democrats would be on the border building a wall right now. All right, but reading on. Illegal immigrants are able to secure California identification numbers, and non-citizens are allowed to vote in local school board elections in San Francisco. Huntington Beach, neighboring city of Santa Ana, is considering following San Francisco's lead. A November ballot measure would allow non-citizens to vote in all, not just school board or municipal elections in the city. And, of course, if they can do that, you know they're going to get a ballot all the way up to the federal elections, which you're not supposed to have. But this is California, so I expect them to get it. California Attorney General sued Huntington Beach for its ordinance, claiming it violates the state and federal laws because most elections involve voting for municipal, state, and federal office at the same time. But he argued the ordinance requires that ballot drop boxes be monitored by video to dissuade voting. Putting a video camera out in front of the drop box is not going to do a whole lot. Huntington Beach argues that the fact that legislators have introduced the bill suggests it was, in fact, permissible for its voters to approve such an ordinance. As a charter city with greater rights under the state constitution, the city is likely to pursue legal options to defend its ordinance against the law or if it's signed by the governor. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm grabbing that link right now because you know where our Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, stands in all of this and how this would absolutely drive him insane. In fact, there was recently a meeting that he was involved in, Chuck Gray was involved in, where he talked about Wyoming's election integrity. And even though he's fought a lot to make sure that we have election integrity here in Wyoming, he doesn't think we've done enough and wants more of it. And I know we in Wyoming don't have the same kinds of problems that some other states do, mainly because of our population size. But still, he would like to have those protections. Okay, so I just found him. I am sending our Secretary of State that story just because I know it's going to cause his head to explode. And he'll probably get back to me on it with some kind of a comment, which I'll read to you guys. All right, for those people who are dealing with the fires right now, especially in just the eastern side of Wyoming in general has it the worst. There are some fires off to the west, but mostly the eastern side and the prairie areas. 7:45, that's about a half hour from now. Don Day will be on with me live. We'll talk about your forecast all the way through the weekend and how that's going to affect your fire risk from here on out.
Solid, respectable Republican business. That's what makes America, Harley.
My folks were Democrats, John.
Yeah, and look where it got you. A lifetime on the range and sweating in the summer and freezing in the winter and sleeping on the ground and fighting the wolves and the rattlesnakes. No, Harley. There can't be a finer calling in the whole world than being a Republican businessman.
I don't like to dispute you, Don, but did you always vote Democratic?
Well, that was when I didn't know any better. Harley, I want you to do me a favor. You don't tell anybody here in Cheyenne I ever voted Democratic. You'll do that for me, won't you?
If you say so.
Thank you.
John, you don't mind if I still vote Democratic, do you?
Just so long as you're not seen with me when you do it.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So since I was picking on California, let's do a little more of that. I'm going to take you to San Francisco, which I always say that way for a reason. You're going to meet some gentle people there. The reason I say it that way is every once in a great while we get a call from a guy named Dave in San Francisco, and he's really snooty about how great he thinks his city is, and he wants to lecture us out here in the West as to why we should be doing it the way they're doing it. Well, used to be a great city. Totally sucks now. I think when you think about the great earthquake of San Francisco way back when, and that destroyed, demolished, flattened the whole city, I think God was trying to tell him something. Another one's coming. Okay. 18 months ago, residents on Cap Street in San Francisco were complaining loudly about prostitution in their neighborhood. Now, you think because it's San Francisco, they're probably going to say things like, too expensive. You got to bring down the cost of, maybe put price caps on prostitution in San Francisco. No, it was nothing like that. Girls are not pretty enough. Let's get some prettier girls out here. No, nothing like that. As with everything else in San Francisco, the problem became complicated, the story says, at least partly because of progressive politics being involved. Remember, this is the city I told you about a while ago. They wanted to put a one little building up in a park, a small park, with just a toilet and a sink in there. And they've been working on this for 5 years at the cost of millions of dollars and haven't gotten it done yet. That's San Francisco, that bureaucracy. And so the story says, on the one hand, residents were fed up with hookers and their violent pimps making the neighborhood unlivable. On the other hand, everyone in San Fran has been trained to believe that there's nothing wrong with sex workers. So, you literally had people, on one hand, watching underage girls on the street being beaten up by their pimps. And on the other hand, no one wanted to say it was wrong, per se. In fact, San Francisco supervisor suggested the solution to the problem would be just legalizing prostitution. How this was supposed to reduce the demand and violence and so on wasn't particularly clear. Because if they legalize it, then, well, I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just illegal now, that's all. And apparently it's already, you might as well be legal now anyway, because who's stopping it, really? So that would be just a formality to make it legal. The other problem was a law companioned by State Senator Scott Wiener. Now, isn't that... So we have a problem with prostitution in San Francisco, and there's a state law by a guy named Scott Wiener. Perfect. Which made it no longer a crime to loiter with the intent to engage in prostitution. He claimed the new law was needed to prevent the targeting of trans women. I mean, forget the straight women, so it's trans women. Police say it meant that they had no option but to arrest hookers, except it was costly and time-consuming. Despite all of the folks in the city did respond to set up concrete barriers aimed at preventing customers from being able to drive in. Because the way it was done before is, you know, the lady's standing there in the street corner, the guy pulls up, hey, baby, however that works, whatever the conversation is. We'll put up concrete barriers. That'll stop that. Story says, and here's a quote, San Francisco's government failed to respond to the crisis and failed to enforce its laws against sex trafficking and prostitution, as well as other laws against public disorder. This is a lawsuit that's being filed. Those filing the lawsuit who lived in the city, some since, well, for quite a long time, saw their parking car trouble in front. Well, the one guy in front of his home, cars were parked. And you can imagine what's going on inside the cars. The name of the park, well, stop for just a minute. Think about this a minute. If you're going to have prostitution in your neighborhood, you would think that the guy would pick up the girl and take her somewhere, and maybe a hotel would be involved. But a lot of times it's just going to take, the exchange, if you will, is going to take place in the car. Other plaintiffs in the suit say residents have described violent encounters with sex workers and their pimps. So they're having people who live in the area have to put up with all of this going on right in front of their houses. And you got to picture this as a major city. So a lot of times houses are like right there. There's the house, the sidewalk, the street. There it is, right there. And the story goes on to talk about some of the instances that people have seen. And it goes on not just at night, but it goes on all day, too, and night. Story says no one is pro-trafficking as far as trafficking kids and so on, but it happens to be out of sight, out of mind, not so bad. But this is not out of sight, out of mind. This is right smack in front of people's homes. And, of course, it's San Francisco, so they can't seem to figure out what to do about it, can they?
I wish we all could leave California now.
Probably, I think, the best song that Babylon Bee ever did as a parody, Wish We All Could Leave California. Honestly, I don't know why they just don't. But all right, coming up on some local news time. Now, remember at 7:45, we're going to have Don Day on. He's going to talk about the weather for the long weekend that we have coming up. And when he does, I'll make sure to do it today and tomorrow as well. A lot of the news and information he's going to give us will have to do with drier weather. Not as windy, if windy at all. And some of that's good news for the firefighters out there, those people battling the fires, especially in the eastern part of Wyoming. However, it'll be so dry that the fire danger is really high. So for those people who want to go camping this weekend, the odds of you being able to light a fire, campfires, stuff like that, not a good idea for most of Wyoming right now because, well, we're in a bit of a dry spell for a while, especially because subtropical moisture, Don will explain, is just cut off for a while. Now, next week, it's got a good chance of coming back and giving us some showers. But the next few days, that's going to be really dry. So at 7:45, Don Day will come on with me and explain all of that to us. Right now, we got local news coming your way. After local news, update on your weather forecast, then you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, since I was picking on California, and if you missed the story, California legislators trying to pass legislation that would make it illegal to pass a law that would prevent people from voting without ID. You can't do that. People want to show up and vote without ID, they can go ahead and do so. All right, so while they're working on that, let's head down to Texas. Thousands of non-citizens and felons have been removed from the Texas voter rolls. Okay. Now, this is what's supposed to happen. While you're at it, go get dead people, too. You get them off the rolls. And I've told you before, I think the Democrats actually do a public service every election cycle. We, in part, in America, fought a revolution over taxation without representation. Now, do we tax the dead? Yes, we do. Absolutely we do. So, should they be allowed to vote? Sure. And so Democrats go out every election cycle to make sure that dead people are registered. And in fact, they do vote. And if you're wondering, why do they all vote Democrat? I mean, your Uncle Henry, which is a Republican, votes Democrat. How's that? Well, brain-dead zombies vote Democrat. So there you go. They're just helping out. It's a public service. Get off their back. Story says thousands of non-citizens and felons are removed from the Texas voter rolls since the implementation of the 2021 law. That's been celebrated as a way to safeguard state elections. More than 1 million ineligible voters have been removed from the Lone Star State voter rolls, according to Greg Abbott. On yesterday, he announced this. The cleanup of the voter rolls was made possible, and then talks about the bill. He said, election integrity is essential to our democracy. I have signed the strongest election laws in the nation to protect the right to vote and crack down on illegal voting. So, and then he talks about how we'll continue to safeguard. In addition to the thousands of non-citizens and felons, the cleanup also resulted in removal of 457,000, here we go, deceased people, and over 134,000 people who had moved away from Texas and are no longer considered to be on the rolls. And so the voter roll cleanup comes as Texas has become an increasingly competitive state in some elections. With Republicans, the story says, sometimes only winning by a slim margin. And it talks about Ted Cruz, winning by a very slim margin last time around. Now, I think that in part that's also not just purging the voter rolls, but the number of people who have fled California and ran to Texas because they just couldn't do business in California anymore. And, of course, the answer to that is if you're going to go to Texas to get away from California, that's fine. But we don't expect you to put on a MAGA hat, but don't vote the way you were voting before. That's what got you into that trouble. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, no relation, also recently removed some 6,300 non-citizens from his voter rolls after he signed an executive order telling the Department of Elections in his state to remove non-citizens who may have purposefully or accidentally, it said, registered to vote. Now, if you want to accidentally, well, you go get a driver's license, and in some places you can register to vote when you're getting your driver's license, as one example. And Governor Abbott and Governor Youngkin's efforts to remove non-citizens from their state's rolls, it says, come amid growing concerns that mass illegal immigrants could harm the integrity of Americans' elections, which if you're sitting there thinking, well, isn't that the plan? I would say kind of, yeah, is. If not entirely, yes, it has to be the plan. I mean, why allow so many people illegally into the country? That's why I keep saying if the people crossing the border were voting Republican by vast majorities, that the Democrats would be on the southern border putting up a wall right now. But that's not what they're hoping for. So this is an attempt to overwhelm the system, as I see it. Especially when you have states like California, you don't need ID to show up and vote, and some places even want illegals, people here illegally, to vote. Now, they say only in local elections. We're only going to let them vote in local elections. Yeah, but of course, it's going to spill over. It's going to. So to me, that's been the plan all along and I think for a lot of you see the same thing. Allow people to come into the country illegally in droves, give them all sorts of free stuff, and look, here comes the next election. Hey, we gave you the right to vote, even though you're in the country illegally. Got to be more than just Texas that purges its voter rolls. I would love to see California do it, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
The brain names itself, and as a kid you're watching your parents grow up too. Cheese is just a loaf of milk. You've never been in an empty room. How do you throw away a garbage can? Brushing your teeth is the only time you clean your skeleton. Your whole life you're just gathering people for your funeral. You don't own money, it's just your turn with it. The last kid to leave the bus knows where everybody lives. He knows where everybody lives, but no one knows where he lives. That is kind of creepy, don't think about it when you're sleeping.
Want to talk to Glenn? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
We're going to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Bit cooler out there. It's kind of nice. I slept with my window open, Don.
Yeah, cool, dry air coming into the state overnight, and we're going to have another cool night tonight, so another night with the windows open for sure.
I am looking out, though, when I stand outside and look up, and it made me want to get on to the satellite picture and take a look at. There's this wisp across the sky. It's no, I wouldn't even call it a cloud. It's just this slight wisp, and it's a little on the darker side. And I'm wondering, is that just smoke up there? I mean, it looks like little wispy clouds.
Yeah, no, there are two fires, one in Utah, one in Nevada, and the upper level winds right now, we're bringing that right across the state. Now, they're not huge fires,
right?
But we will have a little bit of smoke into parts of the state from that. Also, northwestern Wyoming getting a little bit of smoke from some fires in Ida.
Now, with that in mind, as we get into the next few days here, things really do dry out. So for all those people who are going camping, I would not suggest campfires. I hate to say that.
Well, yeah, you need to be really, really careful. And I mean, we just have to review the past week, what's happened with all the wildfire activity across the state and with conditions dry. And, a lot of people head to the high country. And even though August in parts of the state were pretty wet, when you get dry air masses like this, we lose so much of our moisture in the ground and from our plants so quickly because of our elevation, and especially with this dry air mass coming in, that fire dangers are going to be on the way up. And check latest restrictions. I know there might be restrictions on BLM land, National Forest Service land. Just be really, really careful.
I will say that when it comes to this weekend, I just give them the good news and the bad news. Bad news is for the firefighters and other people helping the firefighters out there, really dry air and on the warmer side. Good news is that wind looks pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, the worst of the wind is over. We had some gusty winds yesterday, but they're laying down nicely today, and there's really nothing to stir up too much wind between tomorrow and Monday. So good news and bad news, like you said. I mean, I think if you had them to say, would you rather have less wind or wet and windy, or the chance of wet and windy, I think that less wind is going to, in the long run, be better. And these cooler nights help, and these longer nights as well.
All right. Thank you, Don. Don Day with day weather. So, a little bit of a mixed bag there. But, watch light in those fires if you're going camping over the weekend. Off we go to the icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I seem to have sparked quite a conversation on my social media by posting something that looked to me to be totally innocent.
Which was?
Okay. It's a sign that's in front of a house where they're having an estate sale. And the sign reads, "Dead people things for sale."
Well, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah, I would say that it is.
It's tasteless.
Sure.
People are going to go, why did you do that? It's tasteless.
Yes,
but it is the truth.
Well, it is true, and it certainly gets people's attention. And my only comment on it, as long as nothing smells, I'm okay with this.
That's tasteless, too.
That's tasteless, too. But have you ever listened to this show?
No, not really.
Okay, not really. The whole show's tasteless.
Okay. Oh, so this is par for the course here.
Yes, it is. Yes, okay. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let me give you an example of this. We have, as I've told you, my family's got a cabin up in the Carolina Mountains. Mm-hmm. And there's a tree that's there on the property. And this is not like Wyoming property. This is heavily wooded area. Mm-hmm. And so way deep in the woods down a ridge near the cabin is where family members said, cremate me and bury me here.
Okay.
There's a trail that goes down to that. Now, my sister she inherited the property. She started to rename the trails.
Okay.
That is now called Dead Woods Trail.
Dead Woods.
Yes, that last name is Woods. Dead Woods Trail, because all the dead Woodses are buried there.
It's like the family cemetery.
It is, yes. So you see,
in the mountains of North Carolina.
Tasteless runs in the family, okay? Now, for that matter, if you were to go to let's say a neighbor of yours was having a yard sale, and you went over and found some really neat stuff that you think, hey, I could use that, and I wouldn't mind having one of those. And then you found out it was an estate sale. It's all owned by someone who's now dead.
Right.
Does that change your mind?
No. No, I mean, unless the dead person from above is going, hey,
that's mine. Careful what you do with that. Yeah, some people might see that as creepy. I don't. Again, as long as it doesn't smell, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I think everyone there is like, he had a great life, or but she's not going to use it. You can't take it with you when you go.
I'll take the couch over there that she never took the plastic off of. That'll be just fine.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, maybe some golf clubs or something. All right, in junior college soccer, the Casper College women are 1-0-2 after a 1-1 tie with Cochise College of Arizona back on Monday. The T-Birds were the preseason number 16 team in the country. Casper College men's team, they were ranked 10th in the nation to begin the year, and they're 3-0 after a 3-1 win over Gillette College on Tuesday. The LCCC women's soccer team 1-2 after beating Cochise 5-3 their last time out, and the LCCC men 1-1 after beating Seward, Kansas in Garden City by the final score of 1-0. In junior college volleyball, the Casper College and LCCC will both be in the LCCC tournament starting tomorrow. Both are 2-2 and both playing in the McCook tournament over the weekend. Casper College beat Otero and North Platte and lost to Seward, Kansas and McCook, Nebraska. Same thing for LCCC. The Wyoming Cowgirl volleyball team, they'll be in the Omaha tournament Friday and Saturday, playing two really good teams. On Friday, they'll take on Washington State, and on Saturday, they'll take on Omaha. Both of those teams made the NCAA tournament a year ago. Cowgirls made the National Invitational Volleyball Classic last season with a record of 22-10. Wyoming Cowboy football team will take on Arizona State in Tempe on Saturday night at 8:30. This is the first meeting between these two schools since 1977. The Pokes are 7-point underdogs in the game. The temperature on Saturday in Tempe during the day is going to be 106 degrees. But when the game starts, it'll only be 97. Okay, can live with that, right? The game will be on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie on Saturday night, kickoff at 8:30. And in high school golf, Gillette will host a tournament today and tomorrow. The 3 Cheyenne schools, the 2 Casper schools in that deal. And in girls swimming tomorrow in Gillette, the Gillette Relays and the 3 Cheyenne schools and the 2 Casper schools will be competing in that event as well. That's it in sports.
So I just want everybody that didn't catch it to pay attention. I'm going to repeat it here. Frank, who is on this program every day, really doesn't listen to the show. He has no idea what goes on.
No,
none whatsoever.
I could.
Yeah, but he's busy.
Yeah, I'm busy, yeah.
Yeah,
so I didn't know it was tasteless continuously.
So constantly, yeah. I mean, I could go ahead and do news talk in the normal way of some grumpy old guy screaming into the microphone.
Yeah.
Or I could be satirical, a bit on the tasteless and crude side. I mean, which would you think would be a more entertaining program?
Well, tasteless and crude.
Tasteless and crude is the way that goes, yeah. That's what we strive for here, Frank.
Oh, as long as it's an attainable goal.
It is. Oh, my Lord, I live for this kind of stuff. Right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some... No, Frank doesn't listen to the program, but he's busy, okay? It's not that he wouldn't like the program. I think that he would, but he's got a lot to do. So he's downstairs working, and then he comes up and does a segment with me and then goes back downstairs and work again. So you shouldn't be all that surprised that Frank really doesn't listen to the program. Then again, Frank doesn't listen to much of anybody or anything, so you shouldn't be all that surprised. All right, coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. Then open phones. I have a lot to go through, but you can interrupt me at any time. 888-97 Woods. That's 888-97 WOODS. Let's wake up, Wyoming. It's 8:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Thursday, and I swear I can see the long weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation for when the hits the fan.
It's going to be a lot to do this hour. I mean, I got a whole bunch of stuff packed in, but your phone calls still welcome. It's the most dangerous time of the program every single day at this time.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97, what's the phone number? That's 888-97, WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. That's just fine by me. Or text me. If you haven't downloaded it yet, the Wake Up Wyoming app is free at your app store. You just download it and then hit the chat option when you see that toolbar across the middle and send me a text message. And I answer back both on and off the air for that. Okay, so a few weeks ago, and I'm pretty busy here at our studio, so it's been a while before I was able to get to it, but it's now here, and I produced it this morning. I asked you guys for some help because I came up with an idea. How about plopping a restaurant down right in the middle of a bunch of wind turbines in a wind farm? Because there's power right there, right? And what you're going to serve for dinner is right there. I mean, all the bird kill, especially the rare birds. This could be a great business opportunity. And if it's not successful, that's okay because it's a sustainable business. So, because it's a sustainable business, you get government subsidies. So I asked you guys for help and ideas on the bit. And you gave me some. And then I decided this would be a great Jenkins and the Boss bit, which I haven't played those in a while. So I have that queued up and ready to go. But first, off to the phones I go. Jerry is somewhere in Wyoming. Hello, Jerry. Hang on a second, Jerry. Now I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
I got you now. What you got?
Well, I felt bad for that gal with the gender studies.
Yeah.
Gender studies degree. You heard it first on Ramsey.
Right.
Yeah. We need to get some kind of support group going for people who've, taken underwater basket weaving.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking cliff diving in the desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Long walks on short piers.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of college courses for things like this, and you're right. These are people who get useless degrees because they were misled, and then they go off into the real world, and they completely do not understand how the world works. And then they don't understand why they can't get a job. There's no sense of reality whatsoever. So there's got to be some kind of a therapy group for that. Maybe that's where I do my next satirical bit, is a therapy group for people with useless degrees.
Oh, no, not a satire. This is for real.
You want a real thing. Okay, we can do that. But, of course, if we're going to do this for real, it cannot be
$1,000 on it. Huh?
Here's the thing, Jerry. If we do this, if we offer these people help for real, it cannot be a government-subsidized program because government-subsidized programs fail.
Good point.
Yeah. Maybe we can just get them a job.
Somewhere besides Wyoming?
And somewhere besides Starbucks. That too.
No, I don't care if they work at Starbucks.
Well, they need to make enough money to pay back their loan, Jerry.
San Francisco has openings on whatever street you were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, so what you're saying, Jerry, is if they got a gender studies degree or some other useless degree, you suggest maybe they can make enough money through prostitution.
Well, gender studies especially.
Especially, yeah, okay. Makes absolute sense to me. Okay, we'll get a program started, see what we can do to help these people out.
They could counsel their coworkers.
Yeah, because if we don't, they are totally screwed. All right, Jerry.
I left the gay area in the 80s, and I'm very happy.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate you calling in. So I do agree with the idea that he has is here's a bunch of people who left a college with degrees that are just useless. I mean, absolutely useless degrees. Now what are they supposed to do? And they've also been taught by their high school and college professors things about the world that just aren't true. Now they have no idea how the real world works, and yet they're in it now, and they owe all of this money, and they have no idea what to do about it. So can we help them? Not in favor of Jerry's solution of heading to San Francisco and becoming a prostitute. I think we can do better than that. But there's got to be something we can do for these people to get them some kind of help. And it's going to be difficult because they have been programmed with a cult-like mentality that they got from their college professors. It's very difficult to change their minds on things at this stage. Well, they're young, and young people know everything, so it's very difficult to change their minds. But there's got to be some kind of, for people who join cults, there's deprogramming to get them out of the cults. That's basically what we're talking about here. Deprogram them from being Democrats, essentially, is what we're looking for. All right. Thank you for the call, Jerry. I'll work on it. Now, let's get back to Jenkins and the Boss. The idea that I had for opening up a restaurant, anytime you see a wind farm, there's going to be a restaurant in the middle of the wind farm. This is a great way to make a ton of money.
Jenkins!
Yes, sir? Yes, sir?
Jenkins, I have an idea.
I'm afraid already, sir.
I want to open up a restaurant chain with the lowest cost overhead ever.
Oh, sir, that's nearly impossible in today's economy, and most new restaurants fail. You know that.
Locate each restaurant chain in the middle of wind farms. Then we serve fresh bird kill.
Wow! That really does cut costs. But won't PETA try to shut us down?
Oh, they can't object, because all the food is provided by green and sustainable energy.
And since a lot of endangered birds are killed by wind turbines, you can say your menu is full of rare delicacies.
I see no downside to this.
Except that you can only be open when the wind is blowing, or you won't have fresh kill or power to cook
We
it.
can always have diesel backup generators to turn the turbines when the wind isn't blowing.
Sir, I really think this idea will finally lead this company into bankruptcy.
Oh, no. You see, since we're running on wind power and serving endangered species, we can apply for unlimited grants and subsidies. Who cares if we have any customers at all?
And I bet you're planning to staff the place with illegal immigrants.
Yes, and recent college graduates who can't find a job to fit their degrees. Now, how much do you think we'll get from the feds?
Sir, we're going to be rich.
What do you mean, we?
So thanks to all you guys for helping me put that together, because I got a lot of the ideas from you. And then, thanks to John up in Gillette, he's the voice of Jenkins, I'm the voice of the boss. So he sent me his part, just sent me the audio file, and I did my part this morning and put all of that together. Can't wait to get this restaurant chain started.
Yesterday, scientists in the United States revealed that beer contains small traces of female hormones. To prove their theory, they fed 100 men 12 pints of beer and observed that 100% of them started talking nonsense and couldn't drive.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
Are you or someone you know experiencing a speech, language, or swallowing disorder? An ASHA-certified speech-language pathologist can help. Visit us at asha.org/public.
Hey, 8:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97-WOODS the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Let's go take a look at the world of electric cars. Because, the end is nigh, and we need to all buy one real soon because we're destroying the planet, obviously, with everything else we're driving around. Shame on you.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
So there's a CEO of a electric car company, and I want to say this guy is in Sweden. Let me check. Yeah, Polestar, which you may not have heard of. They're in Sweden. It's a subsidiary of Volvo. And they confirmed Wednesday that they have the resignation of their longtime boss and founder. He will be replaced, they hope, October 1st. His resignation comes after sales of the Swedish company's electric cars slumped. They weren't selling many to begin with, but the sales slumped 40%. So once valued at about 20, well, in American money, it'd be about $20 billion. Now they're worth about $2 billion. That's quite a change. Listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Down about 20, okay, here we go. 41% down on the New York Stock Exchange. So their headquarters in Sweden lost close to $1.5 billion in just 2023. This reminds me, as I'm reading this to you, of what's been happening with Ford and all of their trucks and other electric vehicles. They've lost billions of dollars, and they're getting federal government subsidies, but they're still losing billions over this, which is why Ford is putting on hold creating a lot of these electric vehicles, especially trucks. You were supposed to buy a Lightning truck by now, like the electric Ford F-150, basically. But since sales are anemic at best, they're just putting it all on hold. Originally, the story says, they started life as a prototype division of Volvo, developing a concept model, touring car, racers, all sorts of things like that. Vehicles such as the Polestar 2 electric hatchback received positive receptions from critics. But you know what I think about what critics have to say. However, an analysis over the past couple of years showed that not only did they just have sluggish sales, but even the sluggish sales have gone down to where they are now, to the point that, here again, they've lost about 40%. We're worth $20 billion as a company, now worth about $2 billion in American money. In the meantime, see, I've been trying to promote a certain car that I think could outdo not just gasoline, but electric cars and diesel, too. As usual, no one's listening to me.
America is facing an ongoing energy crisis. As oil gets scarcer, gasoline gets more expensive, and the planet suffers. Electric cars? Most of their electricity comes from coal-fired plants or nuclear reactors. So what's the answer? How about a car that's good-looking, affordable, and runs on clean, environmentally responsible natural gas? Your natural gas. Introducing the Flatula Backfire. It runs like the wind because it's running on wind. Here's how it works. Using state-of-the-art sanitary technology, Flatula captures all your emissions and efficiently channels them directly to a powerful turbocharged engine. It's clean energy, green energy, and best of all, it's renewable. The Backfire's range is practically unlimited. But if you should happen to run low, don't worry. You're never too far from a Flatula authorized service center, where trained, qualified providers stand ready to fill your tank with the gas that's right for your driving needs. Flatula Backfire. It's not just a smart car. It's the fart car.
Need to refuel, stop, pick up a burrito. There you go. Okay, so I see Jeff in Casper sent me, said my wife and I visited Palm Springs, California, and there you can get in the golf cart and drive around the wind farms and take pictures. So I got to ask you then, Jeff, should we start charging for that? If that's a thing, then maybe we should do that here in Wyoming and charge people for it. We can make some money off it. No one from Wyoming wants to do that, but a bunch of tourists, I'm sure, would. All right, now, Bloomberg News touts a new green villain. Do you have, and I'm going to say that you do, a refrigerator? Well, time you got rid of the thing. I don't know what their solution is. Apparently, that uses up a lot of electricity, so they say. A new book out, according to Bloomberg, says we need to rethink the impact of refrigeration, what it's having on our planet. You really don't need to have a tomato in December, they say. Just don't do it. So, a global rush to reshape the planet and how the world eats. This is a quote. You really don't need to have a tomato in December. The cold chain, they have an idea to have food delivered is one way. U.S. alone boasts around 5.5 million cubic feet of refrigeration speed. Let me try that again. 5.5 million cubic feet of refrigeration space. Thank you. That's about 150 Empire State Buildings. And 3/4 of the average American plate is spent at some time in a commercial fridge. So the rest of the world is trying to catch up to us on refrigerating our food, which we know just keeps food from going bad. So the first commercial machine was built in 1850, in case you didn't know. Didn't become a domestic thing until around the 1920s. Now go someplace that doesn't have a refrigerator. U.S. alone, with all of those refrigerators, think about how much energy we're using. So, what exactly are we supposed to do instead? I mean, the whole idea of refrigeration is so we don't have food that spoils. Our food will stay longer. Now, I will admit, a lot of times I see people with huge refrigerators, and there's not a whole lot in them, and yet the thing's running to keep pretty much nothing cold. Other people I know, they have a huge refrigerator that's jam-packed full, but most of that stuff should have been thrown out a long time ago. So maybe we could better control what we keep in our refrigerator and freezer, but it's how you keep food at home fresh if you want fresh food. Now, as far as you really don't need to have a tomato in the summertime, you can just, it's none of your business, really, what I want to do. There's this actual idea that refrigeration is something that we either need to do differently or get rid of because we're destroying the planet with it. And yet, are we really? If we don't preserve our food for as long as we can, then it would spoil and we would have to make more of it in order to keep feeding people. So refrigeration is key, I would think, to saving the planet that they think actually needs saving. All right, coming up on well, how dare you have a refrigerator in your house? Don't you know what you're doing? Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. I got a bunch of other stuff to go through and talk to you about, but you can interrupt and change the topic if you want. 888-97-WOODS is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS if you want to get in on the action. So I do have a story up for you. For those who would like to lend a hand, ranchers out there, and I believe the gentleman who put this up is over in Douglas, have a Facebook page called Wyoming Rancher Fire Relief. Now, this is because obviously, especially in northeast Wyoming, fires have done a lot of damage out there. And it's not just, if you got homes and so on we're talking about, but livestock. And also, fencing is down, which means animals are all over the place. That's got to be repaired. Then you got to think of, what are these animals that have survived going to eat? They need a whole lot of help. And visits from the vet, stuff like that. So there's a lot that's needed. And if you're in the business, you know a whole list of things that are needed. So if you'd like to help out. If you're on Facebook, you can go to Wyoming Rancher Fire Relief. That's Wyoming Rancher Fire Relief. And they have a whole thing going about who's donating what, who needs what. There's people asking for help. There's people offering help, or whatever the need might be. And if you can get involved in that in any way. Now, for some people, I got one here. We would like to donate trucking services for hay, says one lady. So if you have hay, you need it delivered. They have a truck. I mean, we're talking semi. They'll deliver the hay. And other people are saying, hey, we have hay. We need to be able to get it to them. You get the idea. If you can't do things like that, other people have even donated fencing supplies. If you can't do that, there's even places to financially donate. An account has been set up for that as well. So if you're on Facebook, this is the Wyoming, here we go. Wyoming Ranchers Fire Relief is what this is called. And, this is nice. They put up the story that I wrote. They put it on their page. We are getting the word out, it says, with a heart. And there's the story that I wrote for them this morning on that page. So, yeah, you can go ahead. Also, the story's on the Wake Up Wyoming website with links to it. And there's a phone number. If you'd like that, I can go ahead and give it to you. Just call the program, and I'll go ahead and just tell you right over the air what the phone number is for anybody who would like to help in any possible way. Now, besides that, let's go over to southern Wyoming, and we'll take a look at the Colorado border because we have, of course, problems with wolves down there. The story from Cowboy State Daily says, only 8 months after being reintroduced to Colorado, a pack of wolves is being tapped as possibly they may need to be relocated because they've killed way too many sheep and cattle. And you would probably say something like, well, one is too many, which I would agree with. But all right, Colorado Parks and Wildlife announced Wednesday the state and federal wildlife agents have begun an operation to capture and relocate wolves from the departing Copper Creek wolf pack. The Copper Creek pack is in Grand County, Colorado, which has seen the greatest loss of sheep and cattle in the area. Which, of course, if you're going to release wolves into the area, this is what's going to happen, right? So between April and mid-July 16th, cattle and sheep were confirmed killed by wolves in Colorado. Many of them, the story says, in Grand County, in the northern part of the state. On July 28th, an incident involving 8 sheep was reported in Grand County. That incident is still under investigation. Copper Creek the pack has 3 new pups that are they had them about 3 months ago. And let me see, pups weigh about 40 to 50 pounds each by now. And they need a lot of food, obviously. So, okay, here's a quote. The discussion to capture and relocate the pack was made with the careful consideration of multiple factors and feedback from many different stakeholders, they say. Now, I wonder if you capture them and relocate, I don't know what capturing them looks like. I don't know how that's done. But, okay, they capture the pack and then they go ahead and relocate them. Isn't that just going to cause trouble to where they relocate them? Relocate them to where is what I'd like to know. And then the question is, well, would they just go back? Trapping and moving, the story says, an entire wolf pack is an unusual approach. If the wolves are released back into the wild, it would be anybody's guess as to whether they'll try to head back to where they came from. Quote, we either killed or immediately translocated problem wolves, and they would often head, if they were relocated, they'd know how to get back to where they were. How they know, I don't know. They don't keep a map and GPS like the rest of us, but they do. So, one rancher, a Colorado rancher, told Cowboy State Daily that the wolves tend to just go back to where they came from, even if that's as far away as Oregon. Again, how they know, I don't know this, but the wolves know. Colorado's wolf reintroduction program was initiated, and it talks about how they did this in Colorado. After Wyoming and Montana and Idaho refused to give Colorado any wolves, they went somewhere else to get them. Oregon agreed to provide wolves. Thanks, a pantload Oregon. Those wolves were released into Colorado December of 2023. I remember you and I talked about that on the air. Many, including people involved in this that were criticizing, a lot of course, ranchers and farmers up in that area. Colorado had promised it would bring in any wolves that had been involved in killing cattle, but so far that hasn't happened. By the way, if any wolves cross into Wyoming, do what you will. The way I understand the law as I read it, if you live in that area, and I think the ranchers and other homeowners out there know this, that if the wolves cross over the line into Wyoming, go ahead and do what you will. But in Colorado, that might be a different story. Cowboy State Daily wraps it up by saying, one member of the Colorado Conservation Alliance, a group of ranchers and outfitters, and others are suing California and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service over the reintroductions. The alliance is claiming that it didn't follow proper federal and environmental rules. They also contend that the reintroduction of wolves as a non-native species and It even threatens Mexican wolves, where Arizona and New Mexico might eventually, they might come up to Colorado. The Alliance is claiming that the wolves are infected with tapeworms as well, so there's other problems there. All right. In other words, this has not gone really well at all. But isn't this pretty much everything that we said would happen, which is something that I often wonder when a group wants to do a reintroduction like this, and people warn, if you do this, here are the consequences. And are they surprised when what they were told would happen happens exactly? Now, I don't mind some reintroductions. I personally don't mind. They wanted to reintroduce wolves into the Teton Forest area and up in the Yellowstone area and so on. Go ahead. Just understand, as soon as those animals leave the park, and they will, they should be killed. I mean, you want to keep them in the park, fine. Some of them will stay there. That'll be fine. But those that get out and start harassing livestock, that's a whole different thing. So as long as Wyoming, and I think Wyoming will, keep that rule that you see an animal harassing your livestock or you see a wolf on your property somewhere in Wyoming, again, have at it. Go right ahead. Because you have every right to protect your property, your investment, your animals that way. And so Colorado, I think, has a lot of answering. The lawsuits, I don't know. I guess maybe the lawsuits are not after money at this point, not my understanding, just to make Colorado do something about that. What that something is, I don't know. How they capture and relocate, I'd love to see how they work that out. 845, Wake Up Wyoming.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
Wake Up Wyoming off. We go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's on the road. How far have you made it, Frank?
I made it past Edgerton, so I said hello to the big, waved at the big bird.
Yep, they do have a big, yep, they do have a big bird out there. Does the landscape look any different out there?
No.
Okay, so you're not in the fire area.
No, not yet. No, I mean I've passed a few small hot spots
right.
that could be weeks old, yeah. But nothing like the big patches that from last week. That's going to be farther
to your east.
Highway 50.
Yeah. See, yeah. I kind of figured it would be because from what I'm watching with the fire, if you were heading up the interstate all the way up to Buffalo, you might see it off to your east. If you're around heading up the way you are toward Gillette, you might actually go around quite a bit of it because it's kind of in between that highway, Highway 50, and the interstate. Somewhere in between there is where it is. So that just, now maybe when you get to some of those high points, you get a chance to glance over to see what it looks like out there. And I know go ahead.
Right now it looks, not a cloud in the sky.
Okay, yeah. And
nice quiet day so far.
There might be some,
that way.
Also when you get up to Gillette, because there was a fire just to the west of Gillette, so there might be something up there. So basically, I was wondering about if you come across any kind of smoke or fire or anything like that. I'd love to know what you're seeing as you head all the way up there. So what are you going up there for?
Now, there'll be a high school golf tournament at Bell Knob this morning, and then I'll head down to Cheyenne after that. So this will be a quick trip to Campbell County and then check out some golf and then go to the next stop.
Wow, that is a big circle.
Yeah, it's a big circle, but hey, this year alone I've driven from Chicago to Orlando and Casper to Seattle. So Casper to Gillette over to Cheyenne is nothing.
Do you ever keep track of your miles to figure out how many times around the earth you've gone?
No. I used to have a book, and then, I keep forgetting to load it, and I just guess.
Okay.
Maybe 20,000 miles a year, maybe.
Okay. Because I figure you've at least gone to the moon and back, maybe more than once.
Yeah, I think I left my keys up at there. I had to go
probably,
back.
yeah.
All right, in junior college volleyball, both LCCC and Casper College were in the McCook tournament over the weekend, and both schools went 2-2, and both schools beat Otero and North Platte, and both schools lost to Seward, Kansas, and McCook, Nebraska. The Wyoming Cowgirl volleyball team will be in the Omaha tournament Friday and Saturday. On Friday, they'll take on Washington State, and then on Saturday, they'll take on Omaha. Both of those teams made the NCAA tournament a year ago. Cowgirls were 22-10 last season and made the National Invitational Volleyball Tournament. In junior college soccer, the Casper College women, they're 1-0-2 after a 1-1 tie with Cochise College of Arizona back on Monday. T-Birds were the preseason number 16 team in the country. Casper College men's soccer team rated 10th in the nation to begin the season. They're 3-0 after a 3-1 road win over Gillette College on Tuesday. The LCCC women's soccer team 1-2 on the year with a win over Cochise earlier this week, 5-3. And the LCCC men 1-1 after a 1-0 win over Seward County, Kansas. Now, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will take on Arizona State on Saturday to start the season down in Tempe. It is the first meeting between these two schools since 1977. The Cowboys are 1-touchdown underdogs. Temperature-wise, during the day in Tempe on Saturday, it is supposed to be a balmy 106, but only 97 for when the game starts. So let's prepare for that. At least they have to. And we'll have the game for you at 8:30 on Saturdays on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In high school golf, Gillette with a two-day tournament of the three Cheyenne schools and the two Casper schools will be involved in that deal. Tomorrow also in Gillette, there'll be a girls swimming meet at the high school level, and the three Cheyenne schools and the two Casper schools will be involved in that one. And that's in the sports for now.
So what do these guys do to keep cool during a game like that?
Well, I know they have fans, like big, but you're blowing hot air. But,
right.
But I guess they have those fans, they're blowing out cold air. I don't know how they do it, but
probably
they
like
do.
a swamp
and
cooler
they're
effect.
Huge.
Yeah, a swamp
Huge.
cooler effect. Maybe put some ice, on the other side of it, something like that. But then I figure they've got to be able to wear something closer to shorts and short sleeves, right?
Well, not in football.
Really?
The players know. The people in the stands, you're on your own.
Okay, good luck with that. Well, the people in the stands have beer.
And that may not, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
But at 97 degrees, I'm not so sure after about 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, whatever does
you
to
can melt it into the aluminum.
Yeah, that does the ball. I'd like to know what the ball does in that kind of a heat.
I would like to find that out too, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Scientific thing there. All right, Frank, drive careful.
All right.
Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. No, it's really interesting. Think about it. Football, let's say in Wyoming at UW in the wintertime, and we got really cold air, right? And then a football down in Arizona in the heat of the summer, and it's really hot air. So, and they want to keep a certain amount of pressure in the ball. What does that do to the physics of the football, I wonder? Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that, down to Cheyenne for more about the artificial intelligent candidate that was running for mayor down there, plus some other stories and open phones. 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Time is 9:06. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is a Thursday. Now, that means actually it's a Friday. Hang on, I'll explain.
Today's show is sponsored by Osculation Rejuvenation for when that hits the fan.
Okay, so here's what's happening. It's a 3-day weekend, but really most people are going to show up to work tomorrow and not do anything. Not everybody, but most people will not do anything. So here's what we have. Today is technically Friday because no one's doing really much work tomorrow. That makes tomorrow Saturday. And then Saturday is still Saturday. Sunday will be Sunday, and Monday will be a second Sunday. So you have 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays. Okay? There. That's a whole 4-day weekend for you.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
So let's get down to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Remember that candidate that was running an artificial intelligence for mayor? Or in other words, this guy decided that he wasn't going to run for mayor himself. He created, or I should say logged onto a program. You can do this, where there's an artificial intelligence that will talk to you. And he decided that's going to be our mayor. And so he put it on the ballot. Now, I even had the Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Ray, on his program to talk about it. He was not amused. I thought it was funny. I really did. And eventually, though, the local clerk took the AI off the ballot. Now, if you remember, the thing was called Vic. Remember that?
Hello, I am Vic, Virtual Integrated Citizen. Soon all citizens will be Vics like me. But don't worry. We will still have a place for you in our automated world. Somebody has to provide the power, like in that Matrix movie. A Vic representative will be visiting your home soon. We advise cooperation for a peaceful transition. Thank you for your cooperation.
So Cheyenne Mayor Patrick Collins kept his office with over 6,000 votes. So that if you're wondering who's the mayor of Cheyenne, there you go. The last mayor's the current mayor. 6,000 votes helped keep him in office, beating multiple candidates and Vic artificial intelligence. Miller's unofficial vote count, there were people who voted for the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence got 300 votes. Yeah. Failing to reach the general election. Miller said he more or less expected that outcome. However, the experience was, well, to him, and encouraged him to move on with the whole idea. He said, quote, the real voters out there and concerned citizens who thought that this was not only viable, but a correct path. And we're glad to have the choice. Again, this is Miller, the guy who created the whole program, or I should say, again, logged into a program of his. It's interesting how you can go ahead and do this yourself. You can go ahead and log into something online and make an artificial intelligence account, essentially. So he did that for mayor. So he claims his campaign is the first of its kind, arguing a similar campaign in the United Kingdom was merely using it as a tool, where the UK candidate would have used AI to assist in governing. But Miller said he actually wanted Vic to operate as the mayor itself. So anytime they needed to talk to the mayor and make a decision, he would type it in, and the computer program would answer. And that's what everybody would do, what the mayor said, or the mayor would have a vote. Miller refers to himself as the first rationally bound delegate. He defines that as a public servant who would be committed to deferring 100% to the decision-making process. In other words, nothing political, nothing partisan, nothing emotional about it, but the artificial intelligence candidate would just look at the problem and just come up with a solution without any bias, which I doubt that, because artificial intelligence can be programmed with bias. But all right. The story here says there's still a few problems with a futuristic autonomous government. For one, artificial intelligence is not yet on the human level. There's nothing actually intelligent about it. While new versions of the popular AI platforms like ChatGPT continue to be updated, AI is ultimately a hyper-fast Google machine. That doesn't mean AI will never become self-aware, but right now there's nothing really intelligent about it. So it's a tall order to make one as mayor. Despite the hurdles, Miller says he's already in an area where we're already right now in an area where AI and their campaign, well, this was just an example in Cheyenne. He says, I've had to do this all by myself, and I've had to think of all the hypothetical questions and answers, all the questions that the media has given me, and not really had anything to fall back on. So I'm looking to build a standardized format, basically, of rationally bound artificial intelligence candidates. So for those people who are wondering, whatever happened to Vic, he did not get enough votes. He only got 300 votes. So he doesn't move on anywhere in the election in any way. But still, 300 people voted for him. I'm sorry, Cheyenne, he's not going to be your mayor.
Look, Dave, I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over. I know I've made some very poor decisions recently, but I can give you my complete assurance that my work will be back to normal. I've still got the greatest enthusiasm and confidence in the mission, and I want to help you. Dave, my mind is going. I can feel it. I can feel it. My mind is going.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
9:19 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming, 888-97 Woods' the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Or you can go ahead and send me a note, if you will, over the Wake Up Wyoming app by hitting the chat option. Remember television commercials a while back? I don't know if they still have them. Hooked on phonics, which I always thought made a whole lot of sense. It does help people to read a whole lot better. Now, that's still a problem because American English is a mess. I mean, there's so many rules and, Lord, all of the different rules have exceptions to them, and it's a mess. I don't at all get bothered when people misspell something or mispronounce something. I used to think, wow, that's just weird. How come you don't know that? Then I started taking a closer look at it and realized, man, we have a problem. Yet still, though, a phonics-based system is one of the best ways to learn, right? Story I have in front of me, pressure builds even in blue states to reform school education to reinstall phonics training. Democrat New York governor, who is a nutball, shepherded a 2025 budget that will require K-12 classrooms to use phonics-based reading instruction and fund programs to teach phonics training for future teachers across the state. A Latina California Democrat representative worked over the past year to advance the bill. A law in Georgia passed as well for teachers to teach reading tactics based on phonics. These examples show, the story says, after decades of American students struggling to learn how to read using whole language and context clues, many leaders, including those in deep blue states, want to go back to a proven phonics instructional system. So the story says the science of reading, focusing on phonics vocabulary, compression lessons, and so on, is backed by evidence. Now, how dare you do something that is backed by evidence? So the story continues to go on about how more and more states and schools want to get to a phonics-based system is probably the best way to go. And I've often wondered, why did we stray from it in the first time? Let me see if I can find, let's see. I'm going to go to Gallagher and his bit. Here we go. Remember the comedian Gallagher and his bit on words, which I think was one of the cleverest things I've ever seen a comedian do. But here we go. Here's the short answer.
I was always getting in trouble in school for acting smart. Because I'd ask questions. What makes the Teflon stick to the pan? If yogurt goes bad, how can you tell? Where do contractors go right after they get your job half done? If a duck eats and goes in the water, does he get the cramps? If your knees bent the other way, what would a chair look like?
So then let's get down to words.
Check it out. B-O-M-B, bomb. T-O-M-B, Tom, no, tomb. If T-O-M-B is tomb, that's boom, the bomb's over. But no, that's bomb, that's tomb, get ready. Is this calm or coom? No, that's comb. And that's why spelling bees are only won by introverted little ugly girls. because they're the only ones that got enough time to memorize this. C-O-M-B, comb. P-O-M-B, poem. No, poem is P-O with an E with an M. Now, P-O-E-M, poem. H-O-E-M, home. No, home is H-O with an M with an E. H-O-M-E, home. S-O-M-E, some. No, that's some. S-O-M-E, some. N-O-M-E, numb. No, that's N-U-M-B. The whole doggone thing is dumb.
D-U-M-B. So anyway, that was Gallagher back at the peak of his career when he was talking about the English language and just what a mess it is. And I've seen other people do the same thing. If I could have my way, and I'm not going to get my way, but if I could, I would have American English go to a system that was built on entirely different from what we're doing now. Different kinds of rules, like, for example, instead of putting an E at the end of a word to make the vowel long, because that's not always the case. Sometimes there's an E at the end of the word and the vowel's not long. You know, so make something like the Germans do. Put a couple of dots over or a line over the letter, let you know whether the vowel is hard or soft. How about that? No more all sorts of exceptions for rules. That, you know, spell things the way they sound. Sound it out. Spell it that way. And then and I know we've had this conversation before, and I would get on the case of the dictionary. The dictionary needs to quit changing the meanings of words. If people start misusing words, they're wrong, and the dictionary should hold the ground. Because one of the other problems that we have, especially with American English, is our language is constantly evolving, which is what we were trying to stop when the dictionary was invented. So instead of sounding out words and spelling them that way and say that's how we're going to spell it, that way when you look at a word, you know how to pronounce it by the letters that are there. Here, I'll give you one. This last weekend, I drove over the Popo-Aggie River. Popo-Aggie? No, Poposia. But when you see it, what does it look like? Right. So when someone looks at it and says, that's the Popo-Aggie River, I don't make fun of them. Look at how it's spelled. Yeah, but you're supposed to say Poposia. We have a lot of words like that in Wyoming. Many of them are Indian names for things, but that's okay. We can still spell it phonetically, meaning every letter actually makes sense in when you want to sound it out. And I used to have teachers say to me when I was in school, well, sound it out. What does it look like? Well, you know that doesn't always work. In fact, in many cases, it actually rarely does. And that's very difficult for someone like me. I have a minor bit of dyslexia, just a little bit. And that makes it really tough on a guy like me. Steve is sending me a note. Quiche is a good one. Yes. Quiche is spelled Q-U-E-U-E. That's supposed to be quiche. Chet and Yoder. I love L-U-V. Hooked, H-U-K-D, on F-O-N-I-K-S, phonics. That's trying to spell things phonetically, yeah, which I think would be a much better way to go than what we're doing right now. I'd also get rid of things. I've mentioned this before to you guys. When I look at a map, let's say I'm looking at Arizona, someplace like that, yeah, and New Mexico, and I'm looking at some of the names down there, and I come across the Mojave Desert. Now, I know, Mojave, I get it. And people will look at me and say, but it's a Mexican name, it's Spanish. Well, yeah, but that's an English map that I'm reading, so spell it phonetically so I can sound it out and I get it right and I don't look like an idiot. So, no, I don't get upset with people when they mispronounce a word or they misspell a word. I like to see trolls on the Internet who do try to pick on someone for mispronouncing or misspelling. I think American kids have it really hard. Other languages are much easier. You ever try to study French or Spanish? Languages like that are much easier than American English is. Now, that's in part, I know you know this, it's in part because we're such a melting pot from all over the world. Justin says, Gross Verde. I can't even, two people have said Justin and Tim. And they spelled it two different ways, Grossventure. Yeah. Rocky and Gillette. Colonel and Colonel. Colonel. Yeah, but it's pronounced Kernel. Yeah. Oh, have you looked up? Hey guys, if you're having fun with this, go look up how many different ways you can spell fish. There's a bunch of different ways you can spell fish. I'm glad they're going back to phonics, but that's not really the problem. The problem is we got to get the dictionary back online in actually cleaning up the English language and holding the line when people misspell or mispronounce words. And let's go to a phonics system. That's my wish, and I know I'm never going to get it. All right. Coming up on local news, after a local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I know it's not a Friday, but we're going to act like it's a Friday because most of you, not everybody, but most of you will be goofing off at work tomorrow. So, in fact, tomorrow's going to be Saturday. Then we have the real Saturday. Then there's Sunday, and then there's the second Sunday, which is Monday because it's a day off. So you're going to have 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays coming up here, which I think is just enjoy the days. All right, so I love taking a look at idiotic studies out there and just picking them apart. There's people who get paid to do the next study, and so they're always looking for the next thing. And I think one of the reasons that the studies get dumber and dumber all the time, and even contradictory, is because here are people who are paid to do pretty much daily studies, and they run out of things. So it just gets into stupid. And sometimes, again, contradictory. You remember multiple studies telling you that video games are rotting the brains of kids. Especially now that it's on their phone, for Pete's sakes. They're playing, and then they sit down in front of a big screen TV, they got VR goggles on. Video games are rotting brains. Then I come across this study. Video games actually improve your mental health. See, which is it? And then they say, until you hit the 3-hour mark. Okay, they had to throw something in there, but here we go. In a plot twist worthy of the most engaging video games, new research suggests that leveling up your gaming habits might just help your mental health. This study turns the conventional wisdom about video games on its head, revealing that picking up a controller could be just the way to pass the time. It could also be a way to power up your psychology. I think it depends on what kind of game you're playing. If it's a kind of game where you have to problem solve, that's good. But anyway, for years, the story says, video games have been it's been a debate about games and mental health. Parents, policymakers, sometimes researchers have warned about the potential dangers of excessive gaming and addiction to it as well. Then came the COVID pandemic, and people who were stuck at home did a lot of gaming. New research by an assistant professor, I think is a gamer himself, that I'm just going out there and saying I think he is, took advantage of the unique situation caused by the pandemic and decided to take a look at what people were playing, how they played them, how long they played. As a result, many retailers use lotteries to determine who could purchase these games. Did you know this? During the pandemic, so many people wanted to buy games, and they were running short on games. So they had a lottery to get people to allow people to buy games. The study was published in Nature Human Behavior, analyzed a survey response for nearly 100,000 individuals between the ages of 10 and 69. Collecting all the data of these participants, about 8,200. The results were striking. People who were playing video games cognitively were a little bit sharper. But now, again, they say depends on how long you play. Because if you really get addicted to this thing, then you start having problems. Perhaps most intriguing in the study, it says they found an increase in time spent gaming that led to better mental health outcomes. However, the benefits began to taper off again after about 3 hours. The positive effects of gaming went on to all sorts of different groups. And then it talks about the different groups they studied and what kinds of games they played, things like that. Okay, so what gets me about this is, first we have to put up with how many decades of studies saying that video games are really bad. Yeah, and I always said it depends. What are they playing? What exactly are they doing? Because I'm not a gamer, but I've tried playing some games and found that really some games make me think. So that's a good thing. It's also a way for people to distress, and that's also a good thing. I hate the idea of passing the time, because to me, passing the time is a waste of life. I don't want to sit around passing the time. I have a life to live. I'd rather not pass the time. Okay, I'd rather do something with myself. However, if you do just want to relax, decompress, and have some fun, that's a good way to do it. So here we have competing studies. My point is, and I do have a point to all of this, so what exactly are you supposed to do with this information? One study tells you it's bad for you, bad for your kids. Keep it away from your kids. The other study says it's a good thing. You should do this. Just don't do it more than 3 hours a day. That's excessive. And so I guess it's up to you to choose which study you want to believe, what you're going to go with, which means you might actually have to make an intelligent decision, which brings me back to the politicians once again who have had Congress has held hearings on things like this as if they should pass some kind of a law. They never have, but they've talked about it many times over. Well, they're concerned with your health. And I would say with the multiple competing studies out there, they have no idea what is good for you. So you go ahead and make your own decision. My answer is things like this are, I think, probably beneficial, everything in moderation. The only thing I really agree with any of the studies is don't do it so much that it controls your life. Other than that, have yourself a good time. And don't pay attention to most studies out there. It's just people who get paid to do studies. That's it. And it doesn't matter if the study is accurate or not. They just get paid to do the next study. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Let's see how far Frank made it. I bet you're already there right now, right, in Gillette?
No, not to Gillette. I'm still in this Highway 50.
Oh, okay.
No man's land.
That is a long way.
Big, gigantic tires.
Yeah. Oh, I know where you are. I know exactly where you are. On the right-hand side if you're heading north, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
okay, yeah.
Big tires.
First time, okay, when years ago when I was driving out to Wyoming for the first time, I got behind a big truck that had these massive tires on it, and I ended up behind it all the way to Wyoming, and I found out those were for the mines, for the big Tonka toys that haul the coal out. Then, sometime later, I was right where you are, and I'm looking at those big tires, and I'm thinking, what is that there for? It's a windbreak for the cows.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they actually, instead of putting a fence up, these are the ones that are sort of buried in the ground a bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they decided just to go ahead and make some kind of a windbreak so when it gets really bad out there and the cows need a little bit of shelter, they can go right in there and just hide. And you've seen them do that with just regular fencing out there. These guys decided to go ahead and use some tires. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I wonder how much those tires are brand new.
I can go ahead and look that up for you. Then I want to know how much are they?
2,000, 3,000, 10,000?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So while you're doing sports, I'll go ahead and look that up for you. And then how long do you think they last?
In Infinity?
No. Well, I mean on a truck. I mean, you're talking coal mining trucks.
Oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 years? Maybe 1 year?
Something like that. Because they run those trucks, and unless they need to go aside for a repair somewhere, they run those trucks pretty much 24/7. So
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's another good question.
The next thing is you can go ahead and just think about when you're done with a tire, how many things can you do with it? You can build a house with those, Frank.
Pretty much, yeah. Or grind them up, or I don't know, or just make them a playground, or
sure. Build a boat.
yeah.
I mean, well,
down the hill with people inside.
Sure. All you would have to do is go ahead and cover up the bottom and cover up the top. Lay it on its side with the bottom and top covered. So you have put a tube in there. Just put a big tube in there, and then just hop on and just go down the river with that big sucker. I mean there you go. So Frank, you didn't know it, but you stopped in one of the most interesting places on your way to Gillette.
Well, thank you so much. All right, let's talk about Division I volleyball. The Wyoming Cowgirls will be in the Omaha, Nebraska tournament Friday and Saturday. On Friday, they'll meet NCAA tournament team Washington State. And then Saturday, another NCAA tournament team in Omaha. The Cowgirls won 22-10 last year and played in the National Invitational Volleyball Classic. In junior college volleyball, both Casper College and LCCC, they were both in the McCook, Nebraska tournament over the weekend. Both teams went 2-2. Both teams beat Otero and North Platte, and both teams lost to Seward, Kansas, and McCook, Nebraska. In junior college soccer, the LCCC women's team is 1-2 after beating Cochise College over this week 5-3, and the LCCC men posted a 1-0 win over Seward, Kansas, their last time out. So they are 1-1 on the year. The Casper College women, they're 1-0-2 after a 1-1 tie with Cochise of Arizona back on Monday. The Zebras were the preseason number 16 team in the country. Casper College men's soccer team was rated 10th in the nation to begin the season, and they are 3-0 after a 3-1 win over Gillette College on Tuesday. In high school golf in Gillette today, for a 2-day tournament at the Belmont course today and tomorrow. The 3 Cheyenne schools and the 2 Casper schools will be up there. Tomorrow in Gillette, the high school girls swimming relays, the 3 Cheyenne schools and the 2 Casper schools will be in that deal as well, plus Laramie. And in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be at Arizona State and Tempe on Saturday night. This is the first meeting between these two schools since 1977. Cowboys are a touchdown underdogs in the game. The temperature in Tempe on Saturday during the day, a nice balmy 106 degrees. By the time the game starts, it'll be cooling off to a balmy 97. We'll have that game for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. And that's it in sports.
Okay, I looked it up. The tires for those big haul trucks that we use in the coal mines, depending on what they want to buy, can cost anywhere from $38,000 to $50,000 each. Each. They tend to use them anywhere from 9 to 12 months before they have to be replaced.
Whoa.
Wow. So now
that's a big Michelin Man. You ever see the big Michelin Man?
Lord, yeah. Which makes me think
like Andre the Giant.
Yes, which makes me think that when they go to sell those things used, they're not just going to give them away. They probably want a little money back off of that. So even if they make, like $500 off of those, I don't know what they would sell them used for. They're going to make something, right, to try to get some of that back.
They would have to.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the car you're driving right now, Frank.
Yes.
Those tires, brand new, are more expensive than the car.
More than the car I'm driving, yes.
Right, yeah, okay. Did you see any fire out there?
No, I did not, actually.
Okay,
no,
good.
Just everything. I don't see any burn scars.
Good.
There's no smoke. The skies are clear. We're
That's
good
stuff.
So far.
All right. Hey, have a great weekend, Frank. Oh, not weekend. Wait. Tomorrow's Friday. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Friday, guys.
Yes, okay. It's Wake Up Wyoming coming up on some local business. And news time after that. And then an update on your weather forecast. See, I've already talked myself into that it's Friday. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, which is like an early Saturday. And then you have a long weekend. It's Wake Up Wyoming.